Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, where we transform everyday leadership struggles into powerful legacies that impact generations. I'm your host, Chanie, a 20-year veteran of school leadership who has helped hundreds of school leaders achieve what many thought was impossible through our signature programs, School Leadership HQ and Enrollment Engine. With our battle-tested frameworks and blueprints, leaders have achieved 90% parent retention, 50% less staff turnover, 15% improved profit margins, and increased enrollment by 25%. My mission is simple: to revolutionize school leadership by elevating the skills, the habits, and mindset of passionate leaders ready to create lasting change. Join me as we build your legacy of excellence, one transformative conversation at a time.
Hello there. Welcome back to the podcast. It's December 30th, so the world feels a little bit quieter in this little space between years, if you will. Every December, I like to sit in this little pocket of time. It's kind of that beautiful in-between time where I ask myself a very simple question. What did this year build in me? Because capacity, which is what we want, right? It's built in friction, in the stretch, in the tension between what we wanted, what were our goals, what were we trying to accomplish, and what actually was, what was the reality. And 2025 built my capacity in ways that I never saw coming. And I would say that the second half of 2025 was the biggest transformation since Memorial Day, was a massive shift for me. But the first 6 months were also pretty intense. So I'm going to kind of break down this episode into a couple of different sections of different buckets of my life that really stretched me to the limits and what it built in me. So I spent most of the year writing this book. And for anyone who has built anything or wrote a book or just done anything, you understand it's not just words on the pages, okay? Writing a book is therapy. It's excavation. It is meaning yourself on paper again and again and again until you stop flinching. And there were so many mornings where I would sit at my desk, or I would usually write at the beach, bring my laptop there because the space and the water is amazing. But every time I would sit down to write, I'd always be like, let me just check my email one more time. Let me just go do something else. Because the moment you start writing, the real work begins, right? The kind that has nothing to do with the paragraphs that you're trying to put together and everything to do with the permission that you're trying to give yourself. Because the pages on the book became a mirror to me, right? Sometimes they were about my ambition that was sharp and alive and unstoppable. And most days it was, where am I still rushed? Where do I still believe that rest is earned? Where am I confusing my productivity with my self-worth? And there were more days than not that I didn't want to look at those pages because writing asks for a kind of stillness that success does not allow sometimes. It doesn't clap for you. It doesn't tell you you're doing a great job. It just sits there and waits for you to be honest. And as I was wrestling with chapters 3 and 4, I had this moment that I'm never going to forget. I was writing a section on exhaustion, which I ended up moving to chapter 1, about the invisible weight that leaders carry. And I wrote out this piece, and then Mayor and I were talking. He's like, honey, like, your story is not coming through here. He's like, you're still writing mechanically. This isn't you. This isn't your voice. This isn't your story. Like, he's like, it's missing. And I really sat down and reread it. And then I wrote it like I would write it, in my voice, with my story, in how Chanie writes. And when I read the words on that page, I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened. And I was like, oh my God, I am not describing just the school leader here. I am writing about me. And that was the point that I really stopped writing a book for leaders. And I started to write the book with the school leader, from inside the same tension, from inside the same level of humanity. And I often think about, when I think about the humanity of school leadership and just our own humanity, is like, how can we continue to love our people, whether that's our spouse, our kids, our team? How do we love and show up and keep reaching for the people that we love when their humanity looks different than ours? We all have humanity, our brokenness, our exhaustion, our fatigue, our flaws, our trauma, all of that. That's part of our beautiful humanity. But the person that you're leaning towards, their humanity looks different than yours. Can you continue to reach for them? Because in writing the pages in the book, like, telling the truth is the most courageous act of leadership because it's not loud. Nobody claps for it. And it builds integrity between what I say and how I actually want to live. And so writing forced me to slow down in a way that I've never had to slow down before. Like, I had to wrestle with the sentences that I was writing. So it stopped sounding smart and intelligent and professional and actually just was real and true. And I hope that when you read the book, you really feel that, because I have found that the most courageous thing that I've done in 2025 is sitting in the chair and writing when every part of me wanted to get out of the chair. Okay. It's Writing became a practice of emotional regulation, of discernment, of slowness. Every single paragraph became its own rhythm of writing, of pausing, of breathing, of returning, of slowing down. It was like the greatest rehearsal of leadership. Because when I was able to stay in the discomfort of, like, this paragraph isn't yet, and come back to it and know that I can return to that paragraph and be like, I'm going to come back to it. It's not fully formed yet. Writing didn't just give me a book that I'm going to release into the world. It gave me back. It brought me back to myself. I finally learned how to live that slowing down never means that I'm behind. Slowing down keeps me steady and anchored. The second area that I found myself was in building the 5 gears. So this 2025 was the year that we launched the 5 gears of building a school of excellence. And it actually started in September of 2024 when I was at a mastermind retreat in New York City with my mentor, Todd, and a couple of other people that are in our champion circle group. And Todd and I were talking during one of the lunch breaks, and I started to kind of map out like these kind of 5 things. And then I went to my hotel room that night and developed it further. And that was kind of the messiness of the beginning of the 5 gears. And I had started to ask myself questions like, what are the core functions that every school, no matter its size, no matter its budget, no matter its location, no matter its zip code, like, what are the core functions that schools actually run on? Not the trendy systems or the quick fixes of blah, 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 blah. And every single piece of data came back to the 5 gears: enrollment, financial health, staff culture, parent engagement, and strategic growth. And this is really the hidden machinery behind every thriving school. And, when I was writing them out as overlapping circles and like this and a Venn diagram, I was like, no, it's not a Venn diagram. They are gears, because when one turns, it drives the other. When one sticks, the whole machine flows down. If enrollment dips, finances strain. When finances strain, culture feels. And when culture breaks down, parents feel disconnected. When all of that happens, growth stops being strategic and it starts being desperate and starts being chaotic and crisis led. And so I finally cracked the code on the gears, right? When I was like, oh, this is what I have been doing for 10 years. And now I have a way to actually teach it, right? So for years, I've been teaching the 5 gears through coaching on culture, through helping owners stabilize financials, and guiding directors through parent communication. But I finally got to see the full ecosystem. And that's how the 5 gears, that's the language for what had been instinctual for so long. I finally put words to it. And so building the gears wasn't just about the business strategy and how to help leaders. It was just such a powerful way to recognize, like, things take time. It takes time to be an overnight success. It takes time to build something magical. It takes time to build a true business framework, right? And when I think about what this year built in me from the lens of the 5 gears, is that this framework is one of the clearest markers of school leadership success, right? It gave such structure to the intuition that I've known for so long, and proof that what felt invisible can be made visible, because that became the introduction of teaching rhythm-based leadership as well in the second half of the year. And I think the biggest thing that I reflect on is that if you're willing to stay long enough to see the pattern, you can build something incredibly powerful. And that requires such a level of patience and discipline, right? So that was the second area of where I found myself. The next area was in my own health. So many of you know that in 2022, I had several different health breakdowns, one of them ending in hospitalization, which I thought was a heart attack because I had all the symptoms of a heart attack. It ended up being stress induced inflammation. And so I really started to take my health a lot more seriously. And so much so that I actually hired a trainer and actually started training for my first marathon, of which I'm still training for. But currently, at the time of this recording, December 30th, 2025, I can run for 7 minutes and 20 seconds straight without stopping. So that is about a half a mile for me. That's how long it took me to run that. Well, not a half a mile. It was like I don't remember. It's from my house until one of the neighbors' houses. That's kind of like my stretch thing. But anyways, the point is I was able to run 7 minutes and 20 seconds. When I first started running, I was at 23 seconds. And so to be at 7 minutes and 20 seconds is just amazing. And it happened in the course of 6 months. So that was another huge thing that changed in me. Like, I started to have the identity of a runner. I'm not just someone who exercises or someone who walks every single day. I'm an athlete. I'm someone who runs. I'm someone who actually cares deeply about my health and my wellness. Hey, school owners, I see you. You've built a team, you've trusted others with the work, and somehow it still feels like everything lands on your shoulders. And that weight is exhausting. What if you could stop carrying it all alone? What if you can finally see exactly where your leadership is getting stuck and what to do next? That's where the strategic leadership scorecard was made for. In just 2 minutes, it will give you a clear diagnosis in one of the core areas of leading a school: enrollment, financial health, staff culture, or parent engagement. You'll get practical steps and trusted resources to help you lighten your load and unlock real ownership in your team to be able to lead with confidence. You deserve this level of steadiness. So take the scorecard now so you can lead with clarity and know that your school runs on shared ownership, real standards, and rhythms of accountability. The other thing that really shifted a lot in me this year was my marriage. And Mayor and I have so many different rituals of connection and from our relationship and things like that. But 2025 was about really, really understanding the power of connection rhythms. And, marriage is not about efficiency metrics or about just everything that comes along with how we're running a business or coaching or training or whatever it is. It's taking a breath. And what this year built in me capacity wise was to stay curious. The biggest thing that I would often write to myself when I would journal or when I would go to reflect or whatever it is, I would write, are we still reaching for each other in the fog? Are we still reaching for each other in the fog? Because the fog is always going to come. There's going to be cloudy days and there's going to be beautiful sunny days and there's going to be foggy days. But when the days are foggy, are we reaching for each other? And, Esther Perel, you guys know that I love her. She has this great analogy. I'd actually write about it in my book on the chapter on relational intelligence. And I talk about how Esther Perel calls conflict a dance. And she's like, every single couple has a dance. And every couple has about 3 to 5 disagreements that they cycle through again and again and again. The same 3 to 5 disagreements. And she's like, any couple who says they don't have 3 to 5 disagreements that they cycle through, either they're not talking to each other or they're just unbelievably unself-aware that they actually have the same 3 to 5 disagreements. But if you're listening to this and you do have a tiny dose of self-awareness, and you probably do because you've been listening to this podcast, you can pretty much laugh out loud of like, yeah, we know our 3 to 5 disagreements. It's not about the fight and it's not about fixing it. It's about the dance. And what I write about in my chapter is that every long-term relationship has dances. A couple has their choreography. A leader and the owner has their choreography. A director and a teacher has their choreography. We have the same disagreements that show up in different ways, but it's the same thing. And we have the same dance. And one of the things I would often talk about is like, Our choreography is so locked in. Like, we know exactly what we do. Like, you say this, she says this, he does this, you do this. You walk here, they like it's you know exactly how it ends every single time. Like, you can compete with the Rockettes in Radio City Music Hall, who probably are performing tonight, and how well your choreography is. And so it's not about fixing the dance. It's about choosing a different move. And this year was so much about really building an awareness of what our dances are. And how do we choose a different move, right? How do you choose new music? The music of two people trying to constantly find their rhythm and a new rhythm again, right? And so some mornings I'm the one that breaks the dance. Some mornings Mayor was the one that broke the dance. And sometimes we're both stepping on each other's toes and then we're laughing about it over eggs and, sourdough. So it's really understanding, for me, 2025 was so much about the humbleness of recognizing that every relationship has their friction points, their disagreements, their conflict. None of those things are inherently wrong. They're not wrong. They're not anything. They're not dysfunctional. It's, are you still choosing each other in the fog? Are you still showing up? Are you still staying in it and continuing to evolve and love each other deeply every single day? I find that it's very easy to talk about emotional regulation in theory. When you live in real life and make a different choice every single day about how it impacts our nervous system, I mean, it's the greatest practicum, right? The point isn't to get to a perfect rhythm. It's to keep showing up. And I know I've said this so many times, but even when you're late, even when you're tired, on the couch, and the dining room table, on the walk, trying to get your kids to bed, it's keep reaching for each other in the fog. And, when leaders ask me, like, how do you repair trust on the team and all of that kind of stuff? Here's the thing. And I write about this in my book as well, right? This is why the book has been the greatest therapy for me in the world. Trust is built in the return. It is not built when you are right. It is not built when you finally fix a certain conflict. It's built in the return, right? It's built in those moments of returning to connection. So that's another segment. Another thing, and this is the final one, is 2025 was a massive year for the Schools of Excellence company. We stabilized a lot of chaos that existed in the company for a long time. We built rhythms. We elevated our school leadership HQ membership. We created the anchor map. We created the 5 gears. We created the money leaks diagnostic. We created the leadership reset playbook. We created so many incredible assets that are helping our clients really, really get results. But more than what we built internally with the team and even externally, this year completely transformed me as a leader. Every project tested my patience in a very, very different way. Every team shift really tested my ability to trust and let go. And I really, really learned how to stay anchored when outcomes lagged behind a lot of the effort that I was trying to put out there. And rhythm is what keeps your energy mood proof. It keeps your team grounded and it keeps your mission sustainable. I mean, just the level of impact and transformation that we've been able to do internally by really installing incredible rhythms in each department inside of our business has been nothing short of life-changing. Like, there are many times I don't recognize myself on the other side, just because the level of character that I've been able to build within myself over the last year. So here's what I want to close with, okay? When I look back on the entire 2025, I see a woman who started 2025 trying to manage everything still, despite so many years of trying not to. Every outcome, every deadline, every emotion in the room, including those ones that didn't belong to me. And I think in the beginning of the year, if you asked me how I was doing, I would often answer like busy, but good. And in leadership language, that means I'm surviving with a smile. I have a very sophisticated system of survival. And I know to smile through my sophisticated system of survival because smiling is part of my system. But this year has transformed that. Not everything has to be managed. Not every question needs an answer. Sometimes you get to live the question. You don't have to find the answer. You get to live the question. And living the question means that you get to respond with curiosity, with care, with being helped, And that holding things doesn't mean you have to fix them immediately. You could pause, you could breathe, you could put it down, you could let people have their own processes. You don't have to emotionally rescue them. It's where capacity really begins to grow in a very, very different way. And when your capacity grows in that way, I didn't become stoic or detached in any kind of way. I really became steady in a way that, you can laugh when dinner burns, when a launch flops, when a plan unravels, and just constantly sitting with this is too data. This is data. This is part of my story. And there's a deep anchoring in my faith that happened this year. I found myself really, when things really were unraveling in so many different ways, and I would unravel for like a minute or two, and then I'd be like, okay, this is part of God's plan. Let me see what I need to do here. And it wasn't in a way of toxic positivity or, you know, spiritual bypassing. No, I really, really, really anchored in that level of God is carrying me. Like, He knows this. And here's the thing about the different seasons that I've gone through, right? Is that every single season, whether that's survival, whether you're trying to maintain things or you're growing things, like every single season was giving me muscles that I didn't know I needed. And so many times when I'd be like, God, okay, like I already asked you for this. Like, I shouldn't be standing here again asking for you this again. But it's God, okay, you've given me things that I didn't know I needed. And so I'm asking you for this because I do. I feel like I really do need it. And if you think I don't, then, give me some tools to help me navigate this next thing. And a tool is faith. A tool is trust. And I found myself leaning more and like, God, help me trust you more because I want to trust you, because I want to lean on you. So help me trust you more. And I think that's a very vulnerable act. I want to trust you more, so help me trust you more. We spend so much of our lives trying to avoid difficult conversations, hard seasons, not realizing how much those ones build a level of character that we are just so proud of and create a level of presence that just can't be faked. So that's what this year has built in me. It's a woman who can laugh when she falls apart sometimes, who can pause instead of needing to perform all the time, who knows that it's okay to shed some beautiful, gorgeous tears in the middle of a very difficult season, and those tears are sacred. It's built a leader who knows that steadiness is not the absence of chaos, but it is the rhythm to return inside of it. If you've gone until this point, maybe you've had some tears in your eyes, or maybe your tears are in the dishes in the sink. Maybe you've laughed a lot. You're not behind. You're in a season and you're building capacity. And one day you will look back on this messy, beautiful, exhausting season and realize that it didn't break you. It built your character. So before you turn the calendar page to 2026, please pause with me here. Not a big dramatic pause, okay? It's a very quiet one. A one where you can hear the hum of your own breath, feel like permission. So if you're driving or doing something else, obviously you can't do this, but if you are alone, light a candle, sit with your own notebook, lean back, and close your eyes. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw unclench, and let the noise of the year settle like the snow in a snow globe. Maybe it's snowing where you are right now. And let it settle until you can see what's been here all along. And then ask yourself, what did this year build in me? Not what did you accomplish, not what did you finish, not what did you fix. What was formed inside of you? What muscles of patience grew stronger? What tenderness surprised you? Where did you stretch in ways that you didn't choose, but came out steadier on the other side? Maybe this year built your capacity to listen without rushing to have to solve anything. Maybe it built your capacity to let go of timelines, of control, of who you thought you had to be. Maybe it built your capacity to lead, not by doing more, but by standing still long enough to see clearly. And maybe it built your capacity to love your people, to love your work, to love your beautiful, human, imperfect self. When you honor what was built inside of you, you don't have to turn the calendar page with pressure. You don't have to sprint towards clarity or demand that the first week of January look productive. I know it's very seductive. This is your invitation to begin with presence. You're starting the year from abundance. Trust that the work of this year wasn't wasted. It was woven, thread by thread, moment by moment, into the fabric of who you're becoming. So don't make a list for 2026. Make space and tell yourself thank you for the stretch, for the steady, for the story that's still unfolding. Because this year didn't just build my capacity or your capacity, it built you. Thank you for being here, for leading, for building capacity alongside me this year. And I'm excited to step into 2026 with you, anchored with rhythm and ready for whatever the next season brings. I'll see you on the other side of the bridge.
If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school, I would love if you can do two things for me. One, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And two, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the place to learn how to build a school of excellence. And I would be so grateful if you can do that for us. Your help and support makes this show to be able to be listened by the thousands of other school leaders all around the world. Thanks so much for listening, for giving us your time and attention each and every week. And I appreciate that you have joined us.